Hello there, everybody. My name is Dougie, and welcome to the very first episode of the Dougie Report. Now, let me give you a quick background as to why I'm doing this format all of a sudden. See, first and foremost, with my other longer reviews like The Legend of the Titanic and Titanic: The Legend Goes On, those actually take a really long time to do, especially The Legend of Titanic. I took like 8 months to get that one done. And it's hard to get the motivation for them. It's hard to put everything together, and it's extremely time consuming. And on top of that, I found when doing the last review I did that, when you force yourself to do something, which you just don't have the energy or the motivation to do, the product which comes out at the end is just half-baked and it's just not good. Hell, I personally am not satisfied with it. So I've decided that after I do the full-length review of Tentacalino to conclude the Italian Trinity of WTF, that I'm just going to stick to this smaller format for now because it's easier to do, it's much faster, and I can get across what I want better. So anyway, sit back and enjoy the very first review of the Dougie Report. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Smurfs movie, which came out earlier this year on July 29th. So, enjoy! First thing is first. This was the very first 3D movie I had ever seen in my life, so I was pretty excited when I went to see it at a half-price Tuesday at a movie theater in Canada. Okay? So everybody on here seems to really like this movie, and people said it was very good. However, you are free to agree or disagree with my review. Granted, not everyone will take away the same experience from the same movie. If you loved this movie, good for you. If you hated this movie, good for you. I am just posting my honest opinion. So how this will go is that I will first state a brief summary of the movie, and then I will mention a good section and then a bad section in point form. So, here we go. The plot. Basically, in a nutshell, this film tells the story of the Smurfs as they get lost in New York City and try to find a way to get back home before the evil wizard Gargamel catches them. The good. This was a bit of a trip down memory lane for me, as, according to my sisters, between me being a toddler and age 2, I freaking loved the Smurfs cartoons, but unfortunately I barely have any memories of it. So, I went in with an open mind, remembering what the critics and moviegoers said. Personally, I found that the movie played fairly heavily and directly appealed to older audiences' sense of nostalgia, especially those who grew up on the cartoon. And that I liked about it very much, particularly as I started to remember that jingle the Smurfs sing whenever they work. The CGI was impressive to the extent that you could see every single thread on the Smurfs' outfits, and because they are not human, there wasn't that creepy dead-eye look that is the Uncanny Valley, which we've seen in other CGI films, like the Polar Express or Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Hank Azaria's performance as Gargamel and his cat sidekick Azrael. Those two nearly stole the entire show with their antics and slapstick humor. They, without a doubt, gave the movie much of its life, and Azaria definitely nailed Gargamel's character as an over-the-top, cheesier-than-Kraft singles yet still threatening bad guy. In my opinion, his was the best performance in the entire movie. The morals in the film which the Smurfs convey. 1. The blue moon that appears once or so in your lifetime. 2. That family never gives up on family. And 3. You should always have faith in others, even in the most unlikely of people. The action sequences in the toy store and the occult store were very well executed and very fun to watch. Lastly, the Smurfs themselves. Need I say more? Their cuteness, innocence, naivety, and just how they interact and work with each other in their new environment of New York City was very endearing, and you could not help but like them. They were actually characters we could care about. The bad. Now, I can begin to say this a million times over and not begin to stress it enough. The story. The fish out of water and finding your inner hero or being changed for the better concept has been used so many times in so many different movies and cartoons that it has become a cliché. The biggest problem I had with this movie is that the story was so predictable that it didn't really hold that much excitement or surprise for me. It kind of felt like one big Smurf episode or holiday special. My second biggest gripe with the movie was that there was a total lack of character development for just about everyone in the film. Granted, Neil Patrick Harris and Sofia Vergara did undergo changes in their personalities towards the end, but everyone else I found was just a standard cookie cutout. It almost feels like these genuinely talented actors have wasted their talent in this movie. I mean, it's kind of like how you would feel if someone of high caliber like Dustin Hoffman, James Caan, or Judi Dench starred in something like Tim Burton's remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. On top of that, for everything the Smurfs went through, I wish that they had come out from the experience more changed and affected and became more individual-like and less naive or bound by a group mentality. To me, they took the bare minimum. The part where Neil Patrick Harris and several Smurfs are playing Guitar Hero, in my opinion, was a big-lipped alligator moment. For those of you wondering what that is, it's a term that was invented by Lindsay Ellis, better known as the Nostalgia Chick, where she states, and thus I quote, "This is named after the random musical number sung by a big-lipped alligator towards the end of the film All Dogs Go to Heaven. A scene that comes right the fuck out of nowhere, has little to no bearing whatsoever on the plot, is way over the top in terms of ridiculousness, even in the context of the movie, and after it happens, no one ever speaks of it again." End quote. One thing which I kinda took issue with was that Gargamel resembled a racist Jewish stereotype, much like Simon Bar Sinister from Underdog. However, I did not let that color the entire movie experience for me. For a movie aimed primarily at kids, it's missing one thing. Can you guess what it is? Bingo! A kid! I have to agree with Jenny Punter of the Globe and Mail in her review where she states, and thus I quote, "Without a child character to interpret and join the action, it's a pretty dull way to introduce young viewers to the new Blue Crew." End quote. Lastly, there was nothing really memorable about the film per se apart from the Smurfs themselves. I found that this movie was rather forgettable and just a generic good guy versus bad guy discovering the courage within you kind of film that will just come and go, much like The Page Master. Call me a cynic, but I could not help but feel that this was an attempt by the producers of the film to cash in on a well-established, fondly remembered franchise while riding the coattails of the CGI and 3D craze sweeping the cinemas. Closing thoughts. In conclusion, The Smurfs, while not a bad film, comes below the mark of being a good film. Don't get me wrong here. I liked it when I saw it, but it is not something I would really pay money to watch again. There is no doubt in my mind that little kids would love it, and those who grew up in the franchise would also like it. However, I came away with wanting more from the movie. The Smurfs had a lot of potential and I felt it was wasted. I believe that this movie could have been much better and very memorable if perhaps they ventured into more darker territory, a la The Secret of NIMH, The Black Cauldron, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yes, I know it is supposed to be a kids' film, but there is no reason why a kids' film can't be better thought out, better executed, with a more driven plot, better developed characters, and not be afraid to show cold, hard life or have loss of innocence as the main theme. All in all, this film was like a Disney sequel. It was unnecessary, had wasted potential, is mostly forgettable, and is perhaps an average film masked by a layer of prestige and excellence, that being the CGI and the franchise's past fame and popularity. However, I will give the two announced sequels the benefit of the doubt and a chance to improve on and add to the generic formula this movie utilizes to give moviegoers a better experience in the future. All in all, my rating for the Smurfs is a 6 out of a 10. I hope you all enjoyed my review of the Smurfs movie. Now everybody please stay tuned for when I review the curious case of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. My name is Dougie, and this has been the Dougie Report.